You're watching Mick and T's Sports Report on CHCO Television. And now, here's two guys who still go trick-or-treating on Halloween, Evan and Joe.
I'm Joe Ticotsky down here in New Haven, Connecticut.
I'm Evan McFarlane here in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, where it continues to still try to figure out what season it is.
And this is episode 27 of Mick and T Sports Report here on CHCO-TV. We are cruising. And as Amelia mentioned in the opening intro, we both still go trick-or-treating down on Water Street for Halloween. So what are you going to be dressing up as on Halloween this year?
I've got two options. One of them's the last minute one, just in case I can't pull the other one together. But I think I'll dress up as a mediocre golf professional. I'll just wear my day-to-day clothing and carry my bag around. That should be pretty easy. And I could wear my name tag too.
Nice.
If that doesn't work, I've got a blue Adidas polo and a pair of glasses, and I'm going to start working on that U.S. accent, and I might just be Joe Ticotsky.
Often imitated, never duplicated. I figured I'd go in a different direction. In an ode to Atlantic, Canada, I think I'm going to go as Anne of Green Gables.
Nice.
You never know. And for those of you,
you should go as a Shmoo Tort.
For those of you unfamiliar, Anne of Green Gables did take place on Prince Edward Island. Quickly, favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, Wonder Bar.
Never heard of it.
Really?
What is it?
Come on. It's like the best chocolate bar going. It's
okay.
Obviously chocolate coating, caramel, and like a crunchy peanut butter on the inside.
Nice. I'm going to go something I used to hate as a kid, but I've somehow grown to love it. Candy corn.
Ugh.
I used to hate it, and now I like it. It's part of my new farm to diabetes diet.
Yeah, I like it. It's probably right in the bowl with your Werther's Originals.
Exactly, yeah. And we have it, if you see there on the right side, we have a new background for the show for season 3, courtesy of my buddy Doug over at W4C Graphics. We broke the bank for that. We did.
Yeah, it looks good. Well done, Doug.
Okay, now it is time to put you on the spot and go with the TV quiz. So this one I would say is medium to hard. It was
good.
1970s. Got any guess there? You're really showing your age.
I know. I can see John Travolta. I'm just trying to think of what it could be.
Yeah, on the left, you've got Juan Epstein. Next to him, Freddie Boom Boom Washington. In the middle is the title character, which I can't say because that'll give it away. And then John Travolta was Vinnie Barbarino. And on the right is the late, great Connecticut's own Horshack, Ron Paolillo. Got a quick guess?
I'm embarrassingly drawing a blank because I know that I know it. I just don't.
It is Welcome Back, Kotter.
Wasn't going to get that.
Okay. It's sort of, I know it was on from 1975 to 79. So I know it was before you were even born. And the title track was by John Sebastian, who was in the group Lovin' Spoonful previous to that. But all right, well, let's go right on to the music spotlight. And we had to cut this one for time on the last episode, so we'll do it again. Who do you have for your music spotlight?
100% just doing this because I'm shocked that you didn't know who it was, because I'm going to get made fun of bad. But Great Big Sea from Newfoundland, they stopped in 2013. Alan Doyle's still kind of doing his own stuff, but I mean they're kind of the staple of Atlantic Canadian music for the last 30 years. Check them out if you haven't already. I'm sure you probably have.
All right, I'm going to see if I can get them up. They do a version here, a remake of REM's End of the World. Here's Great Big Sea.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. That's great, it starts with an earthquake, birds, snakes, and aeroplanes. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. I have a hurricane, listen to yourself, turn worlds with its own needs. Dummy, sing your own needs, speed it up and not speed, got no speed. The ladder, something clatter with the fear, fight down, like fire in a fire, represent the southern gang, from the government, higher in the combat site. Like there wasn't coming in a hurry, with the fury, bring it down. Your
is
Doesn't that make you want to put your foot through the floor?
it does. It does. Great big C with end of the world. Evan is going to be out of town for a little bit, so the sports interview, I'm going to end up being solo on it. So Evan, we'll see you back towards the end of the show. And coming up next, we interview a 13-year-old New Brunswick tennis player who tops the rankings in Atlantic Canada's 14 and under bracket. You're watching Mick and T's Sports Report from the 506. How's that? On CHCO-TV in St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Welcome back to Mick and T's Sports Report on CHCO-TV. Our first guest is just 13 years old, which makes her the youngest guest ever on our show. She is currently in grade 8 at Nashwaaksis Middle School in Fredericton, New Brunswick. And despite being just 13, she's the top-ranked tennis player in Atlantic Canada for the 14 and under division and is ranked number 2 in the 16 and under division. Let's welcome Vanya Virmani to the show. Welcome, Vanya.
Thank you.
How's everything going?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, very well. All right, we got a bunch of questions, so we'll start grilling you right now. When did you start playing tennis?
I think I started when I was around 8 years old.
Okay. And what would you say if someone was critiquing you or rating you? What would you say is the strongest part of your tennis game?
I would say my forehand would be my strongest. Yeah.
All right. And which part of your game do you feel needs a little bit of improvement?
Well, I'm working on a lot of things right now, but I would say the thing that needs the most improvement would be my serve, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you have a two-hand backhand or one hand?
I have a two-hand backhand. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, who's your favorite pro tennis player and why are they your favorite?
I really like Naomi Osaka just because of her game style. I like the way that she plays. So, yeah.
That's a good favorite to have, and hopefully she'll be getting back on track. And she's a fun player to watch. Now, I'm sure as you know, last month was that amazing U.S. Open run by 19-year-old Canadian Leylah Fernandez, who got to the finals against someone even younger, 18-year-old Emma Raducanu of England, who actually was born in Canada. I don't know if you know that. She was born in Toronto. Had you heard of Leylah before the U.S. Open?
Yeah, I had heard of her, but I had never actually watched her play before.
Okay. Now, what'd you think of that run she made to the finals?
It was amazing because she's obviously an amazing player, right? And for her to be only 19, again, that's so great. So it was really inspiring too. And it was really fun to watch, especially.
Yeah, and she handled it with those big crowds and loud, obnoxious New York crowds. Yeah. She handled herself well. Now, when you play against older players, do you get nervous at all?
No, I actually think it's easier to play against the older players because you don't have like that pressure that you have when you're playing against like people younger than you or like the same level where like you have that pressure to win. You don't have that with older players. So.
It's interesting you mention that because during the U.S. Open, Chris Everett, who's one of the commentators, they asked her the same question because she started out very young as a champion, and she said the same thing you did. She said there's really no pressure, and she said when I got older, then I started getting nervous if I would play like a young phenom, and so you don't want to say, oh, she lost to the 17-year-old. And interesting because she had the exact same answer as you did. All right. What other sports do you play?
I played badminton for school, but that's about it.
Do you ever have the temptation, like in badminton, to serve like in tennis, throw it up and just whack an overhand at the other side?
Yeah.
You try it one time, see what the referee says. It probably won't go over too well. Now, in terms of badminton, tennis, things like that, Do you like playing individual sports or team sports?
I feel like I prefer individual sports because you have a lot more independence and like you can make your decisions on your own. Whereas in a team sport, there's a bunch of players who play for a team. So all of those opinions and then all that. So I think you have a lot more independence when you're playing by yourself. So
Yeah, yeah. And it's you don't have to, good or bad, you don't have to rely on how someone
yeah.
else is playing and things like that. Now I was doing some research on you and I found out that way back when you were a third grader, you participated in the Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C., which is pretty impressive. How do you go about practicing for a spelling bee?
Well, I did a lot of memorization for sure. And also there's a lot of like concepts that you have to learn and like, rules that the spellings follow and roots and stuff like that. So it's a lot of that.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty nationally known, internationally known spelling bee. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but that's what I do. Vanya Virmani of Canada, how do you spell the word Connecticut?
May I please have it in a sentence?
You kids. Okay, let me think. The annoying TV show host always talks about his home state of Connecticut.
Connecticut. Okay. Connecticut. Connecticut. Connecticut.
That is, if I had a bell, I would ring the bell. Do they ring a bell when you get the answer right, or
No, you get it wrong, I think.
they should give a bell when you get sort of have confetti come down from the ceiling or something like that. All right, I am going to get you out on a couple. We call them rapid fire questions, or I'll ask you a couple little things that aren't sports related. What is your favorite subject in school?
I think math. I'm the best at math, so I would say math. Yeah.
Okay. And what is your least favorite subject in school?
Tech class. I'm so bad at it. So
No?
bad.
I still have some mental scars from when I was in that class, and you had to make bowls and corn cob holders, and it was not a good scene. What is your favorite TV show?
It changes a lot depending on what I'm watching, but I think right now I just finished watching Lucifer. I don't know if you've seen that, but I think that's my favorite right now.
Is that on Netflix?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
What isn't on Netflix these days? You told me before that you've traveled to a lot of many different parts of Canada. What's a part of Canada that you haven't been to that you would still like to visit?
Yeah, like you said, I've been to a lot of places, but I've actually never been to Newfoundland. And I've heard it's really pretty. So I'd really like to go there.
And not too far, just a ferry ride away.
Yeah.
Not a short ferry ride, but a ferry ride. Yeah, that looks like an interesting place. And last question, if you had a choice, poutine or pizza?
Pizza. Who doesn't love pizza? I mean,
Well, you don't like poutine?
not as much as pizza.
Yeah, okay. It is sort of disgusting, parts of it. Well, I always tell our other guests, Connecticut, where I'm from, in New Haven, we have what's known as the world's best pizza. It's thin crust pizza. There are more pizza places here than there are hockey rinks in Canada. We'll put it that way.
Wow.
So yeah, if you and your family ever comes down to Connecticut, you need to check out the pizza. But yeah, good answer. Well, she is 8th grader Vanya Virmani, Atlantic, Canada's 14 and under top ranked tennis player, middle school badminton player, speller extraordinaire, and all around good kid. I can't say all American, all Canadian. Vanya, thanks so much for being on the show.
Wow, thank you for having me.
Great. After this break, we will go to Small Town Spotlight, where we head about as far north in Canada as a human can go. You're watching Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO-TV in St. Andrews. It's time for another edition of Small Town Spotlight here on CHCO-TV. Since CHCO is available on Bell Satellite throughout Canada, you can watch our show on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights if you live in Princeville, Quebec, Dawson in the Yukon, or Osoyoos in British Columbia. And as always, you can watch the show on our YouTube channel. For the 19th edition of Small Town Spotlight, we head back to the Northwest Territories to visit the town of Inuvik, population 3,243, located in the Western Arctic. One of the most northerly towns in Canada you could drive to. It's known for its summer midnight sun, its winter polar nights, and also North America's northernmost mosque. To tell us about the area, let's welcome in Natasha Kulikowski, Mayor of Inuvik. Natasha, welcome to the show.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me.
And what's the weather like up there?
It's a crisp 0 degrees Celsius. So we've had a little bit of snow that didn't really stay because it gets warm enough in the day to melt, but we are heading into our winter now from our fall season.
The old phrase comes up, you can keep it, right? We'll all get it eventually. You are currently the mayor of Inuvik, but when this episode airs, I predict you will not be the mayor. Actually, I'm not predicting anything. You told me that you're not running for re-election. How come you decided not to run again?
The last 3 years have been very stressful, as anyone can imagine, being in a leadership position during a pandemic. And so I've just decided for myself to take a little break. I'm still running for a council seat, so that means I'll still get to be part of the decision-making process, but I'll just get a break from the big chair.
Okay. Now, describe the unique times of the year known as the polar nights and the midnight sun. I'm sure you hear this question a lot.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that we love about living here. So polar night is from about the 5th or 6th of December until the 5th or 6th of January every year. And what that means is that the sun doesn't rise above the horizon. So we don't actually get any daylight for that time period. We do get sort of like what you would imagine is like, say, a dusk light for a couple hours in the mid-afternoon, like say from 2 till 4 or something like that, and then it goes back to being nighttime. But that being said, in the summertime we have the exact opposite. So
would that be
there we go.
Would that be an example of?
So that is probably an early morning, I'm going to guess in about November. So it's not quite at polar night yet. Their sun is still rising there. It's actually even darker during December.
Okay. And then how about the midnight sun?
So midnight sun comes from the end of May until the end of July. And that means that the sun does not go below the horizon for I believe it's 56 days. And so we have 24-hour sunshine, which means that when we have our hot summer days, when it's 25, 30 degrees Celsius, it's those temperatures for the entire 24-hour period, as opposed to kind of cooling off overnight or things like that.
Now, I'm guessing people enjoy the midnight sun more than the polar nights, or am I wrong?
I would say so. I mean, the sun is so energizing, and so there's so many more things to go outside and do. And also the weather's better, right? I mean, in December, you're looking at minus 30 Celsius. It's very quiet, it's a very cozy time of year, I would say. People stay home a lot, things like that. And then in the summertime, of course, it's outdoors, get out and do everything, enjoy that sun as much as you can.
Okay. Now, once things get somewhat back to normal in regards to COVID, I noticed there are loads of festivals held in town that tourists will typically come from out of the area to attend. Why don't you tell us about one or two of those?
Sure. So I think the big one I would start with would be the Sunrise Festival, which, as I mentioned, happens in January of every year, and that's when the sun first peaks up over the horizon. So any of the festivals that we plan as the town of Inuvik, we make sure that they're for our residents first, and then if visitors are coming in, of course, they're welcome to join us and make it an even more robust celebration. And so what happens during that festival? We'll have live music happening, pancake breakfasts, a lot of activities down on the river or down on the ice. We have snow carving. And then on Saturday night, we have a huge community bonfire, which means the fire department actually collects pallets all year long. And the biggest I've seen is about 1,000 pallet bonfire. And then we have a huge fireworks celebration to welcome back the sun, to gather as a community, and then move on with our year, really. And then the other festival I guess I would highlight would be the Great Northern Arts Festival, which is a partnership with the Great Northern Arts Festival Society. And that's a great showcase of art from across the North, and an opportunity for artists to not only work with each other, but to teach. There's courses all through the week, and then there's a gallery for purchasing art. So it's a very interactive festival again.
And when's that held?
Usually in July.
Okay, yeah, so it's sort of breaks up the year in the winter and gives them something to look forward to in the summer.
Absolutely.
Now, if you had to choose one local restaurant, since you're not going to be mayor, you can't be accused of favoritism anymore. If you had to choose one local restaurant for an out-of-towner to eat at, what would it be?
I think my number one choice would be Alistein's, which is a small home, well, not quite a home business, but it's a restaurant. There you go. There's a nice picture of it. It's a restaurant run out of a school bus, which the school bus itself is the kitchen, and then the little cabin behind you.
I've got that too.
Oh, there you go.
So that's the kitchen. That's the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. You can see right behind your head there, there's a smokestack. So they actually heat it by wood for the heat in the bus. And then of course the fryers and things like that also heat from the kitchen. And the little cabin, in the wintertime, you dine indoors. I believe it seats about 12 or 16 people. And in the summertime, they actually have a rooftop patio. So occupancy gets a little bit higher in the warmer months. But they do all kinds of fresh local foods. They do fish and chips, fish tacos. When it's available, I do a reindeer stew or a reindeer chili. So they keep, local ingredients, local sourced food, and, people here as residents love eating it. And then of course, tourists, it becomes part of their experience when they visit town.
Sure. One thing I forgot to mention, this is the Dempster Highway.
Yeah, that is.
I believe. And that is, I don't want to say it looks like the road to nowhere. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Now, if you get stuck there, you're screwed, right? There's what do you do?
Well, so there's the Dempster itself is just over 800 kilometers long, I believe, and about the halfway point there is a gas station and hotel called Eagle Plains. So if you were, your goal is to get to halfway, gas up, and then continue to go on. If you get stuck somewhere in between, thankfully, there's usually enough traffic that you can flag somebody down. It is our main transport route, so there are trucks, transport trucks and fuel trucks coming up and down the highway all the time. So that's, you're not completely stranded, but the road does close twice a year. So in fall, like right now, we're coming up on road closure season, because what has to happen is there's 2 ice bridges. So the rivers that the ferries usually cross have to actually freeze up, and then they build bridges on them. And then of course in the springtime, those bridges have to melt as the rivers melt. And so during those periods, the road's actually closed. So all of our services then are provided by air. Okay,
that was what gorgeous scenery for a ride.
It's a beautiful highway.
Yeah. Well, you can find out more about the town and the area online at inuvik.ca, and that is spelled INUVIK.ca. And Natasha, as I tell all of our small town spotlight guests, if you ever make a trip to Boston or New York area, good old Connecticut's right halfway in between, dial me up and I'll treat you to some of New Haven's world famous thin crust pizza.
Sounds great. Thank you.
And as much, I really would love to visit Inuvik one day, but I went on Google Maps. Do you know I could drive to Costa Rica in the same amount of time that it would take me to drive there. I'm sure I'd break it up along the way, but it was like a 76-hour trip. But yeah, it's just another gorgeous area. You guys are lucky. It's so many great areas in that part of the country that it's special.
Absolutely. Could I make a quick plug just for the town here?
So
anyone who's listening out there or watching and wants to see some more visuals of Inuvik, Inuvik Tourism on Instagram is a great resource provided by the town of Inuvik here, and they do photos and activities year round that let people get a peek into kind of what we live. So it's a great resource for people to check out.
Thank you very much for that bit of info. She is Natasha Kulikowski, the outgoing mayor of Inuvik and hopefully future council member in the Northwest Territories. Natasha, thanks so much for telling us about your area and being on the show.
Thanks, Joe. Great to have you. And I hope to visit you here sometime. That'd be great.
Sounds good.
We the North, we the North, we the North. What a shirt.
You like that t-shirt? I'm sort of running out of t-shirts, but I figured, oh geez, sorry about that. I figured as we go to the Northwest Territories, you really can't get farther north than that. So I figured a We the North was apropos.
We are We the North this year again, thankfully.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Can't wait.
Yeah. And connected to that interview, a couple things that we forgot to mention, that Inuvik's population is about 2/3 indigenous and 1/3 part of what the mayor called the Canadian cultural mosaic, with people from all over the world. And I'm going to try to pronounce these right. The two indigenous populations are the Inuvik and the Gwich'in. So hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And they do have an incredible Instagram account. It's Inuvik Tourism, INUVIK Tourism. So check it out. Let's go right to the shout outs. What do you have?
Yeah, this one's going to be a broad one. We're kind of coming in on the end of the golf season, and just the last couple of years with COVID, it's been pretty tough, but golf's been one of those things that's been about as normal as you can get. So just going to give my tip of the hat to my fellow golf industry workers, all the pros, the superintendents, the shop workers, everybody that kind of makes that happen and kept us safe for 2 years. Good work, guys. We had a great 24 months so far.
Excellent. And I'm going to give a shout out to someone you know, because she's worked at the camp before, Melissa Teal from right here in Connecticut. And she recently received a kidney transplant after waiting many years. So she is, I've said a tough couple of years, but she basically told me she got a call like 7:30 one night, and they said, be here at 6 a.m. tomorrow. So yeah, she's home for a couple months, and then she'll be back on the mend, and hopefully we'll get her back up to Canada. So shout out to Melissa Teal.
Yeah, quick recovery.
Yep. Okay, that's it for episode 27 here at Mick and T Sports Report. Happy and safe Halloween to all of our viewers. I'm Joe in New Haven.
I'm Evan here in St. Andrews.
Thanks to CHCO-TV station manager Patrick Watt and editor Florence Harding Mitchell. Florence Harding was the wife of former U.S. President Warren Harding. Patrick and Florence do the thankless job of producing and editing a show that outdraws Monday Night Football absolutely nowhere in the U.S. or Canada. And now that we've once again come to the end of another show, that means it's time for our closing catchphrase. So in honor of the Northwest Territories, let's go with peace, love, and polar nights. Fun times. This is Mick and T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. We'll see you next time.